this video I'm going to give you 5 rut hunting tips that you can use this season. So I wanted to get this video out actually a week ago, but I couldn't get that out because I shot my 10-point buck a week or two ago, and that was really cool. I shot him 15 yards in the food plot, and then he died in the micro food plot. And so that was a really cool hunt, and we're doing the European mount on him. We're doing it ourselves, and we're going to finish that up tonight. But the rut is a really good time to hunt. Where you will be going into the lockdown in about 3 days. But we are in the pre-rut right now, and a lot of other places are in the pre-rut too. So in the pre-rut is the signing phase, and that is when they're making a bunch of rubs and scrapes, and that way you know that they're starting to move and they're starting to really show their territory. The second one is an increase in daylight water use, and that is when if you have water holes put out, I haven't put out a water hole yet. I wanted to get to that sometime, but water holes and water in general will really pick up when they start drinking on that. Deer get a lot of their water from food that they eat, like in the food plot. They get a lot of their water from the food that they eat. But you'll especially see that when they're working up a thirst, walking around searching for does. And then the third one for the pre-rut is increase in morning activity. So when you see the weather change, and when you see a drastic cold front come in and a drastic fall of the temperature, that's when you really need to get into your stand, and when you really need to get into those morning stands especially. So for the second tip, you want to be looking for the rut lockdown, which happens after the pre-rut, and so that's a short time period, but you'll be wanting to look for skittish does, and they'll be being pushed by bucks, and not necessarily that they're ready, but the bucks are ready. And you'll see a lack of new scrapes because they're chasing the does so much, and they're going back to old scrapes. And then the third one, you'll see random all-day movement. So in the peak, you'll see consistent all-day movement, but in the lockdown, the random all-day movement. So pre-rut and lockdown are not good times to do an all-day sit, but really no time is a good time to do an all-day sit. But you can sit all day, but not in the same specific tree stand. So you want to be looking at that and making sure that you're not hunting all day, and that you're really zeroing in on their bedding and travel during the rut. So I'm going to talk about the peak rut now, but before we get into that, I'm going to mention something about the pre-rut that I forgot to mention. The pre-rut is a really good time to target and try to kill your resident buck that's staying around your property, and he has his core area in your property. But during the peak rut is a really good time to see bucks that you have never seen before, and they come on trail camera, and you're wondering where that buck is coming from. It's because you're in the peak rut and he's searching new lands from far away and looking for does. So that's the thing you'll be seeing non-resident bucks, especially during the pre-rut. And then, so that's the second one. The first one is if you see a single doe, go by your stand during the peak rut. You need to grab your bow as soon as you see her run by your stand, or even walk by your stand, because those bucks will be on her trail, following her, and that's a great time. That's what the majority happens during the peak rut, and that's how a lot of people get their bucks, doing that when they see a single doe and a buck comes in, or multiple bucks come in chasing after her. So that's for the first one. Now the third one is you'll see consistent all-day movement, which is a good time to do an all-day sit, but you don't want to do an all-day sit in one stand like I mentioned. You want to, in the morning, I'm going to focus on bedding areas. In the afternoon, I'm going to be focusing on travel, transition, funnel, corridors, and then on the evening, I'm going to be focusing on like fields and food plots and food in general. During bow season, if you can't gun hunt, if the gun season's not here yet, bow hunting, I'm going to be focusing really hard on those food plots. But during gun season, I'm going to be focusing really hard on those fields. Not saying that you can't bow hunt fields, it's just there's a lot more space in a field than there is in a food plot. And you can zero in on the deer. And usually a food plot is just, they come straight in at you, no matter where you're at. And it depends on how big your food plot is. But a lot of us have smaller food plots, and if they come right in, it's a good time to go arrow a buck during the peak rut in the evening. And so that's for the peak rut, great time to hunt, great time to get a buck, and the majority of people do get bucks during the peak rut. I've gotten 2 bucks during the peak rut, and that's the most times, but I've seen them before, but they're up and moving, and they're cruising all day, looking for does. So for the fourth one is the post rut, and that's after the peak rut when the bucks are really tiring down. So you'll see lower deer activity because those does and fawns are agitated and they're being pushed, and then the bucks have been pushing them, so they're tired and they're resting up. And then you'll see an increase in scrape activity. You'll see new scrapes during this time. Now it's a great time to go hunt, travel corridors, especially during the morning and afternoon. And then for the third, you'll see evening food source movement. You'll see an increase in that, and that's a great time, evening food source movement, to hunt food plots and fields during the post-rut. So that's number 4, post-rut. Now for the fifth and final one, a lot of people don't know about it, and that is the secondary rut. And you'll see that bucks will be looking for those last does to breed during the second rut. And so you'll see them herding up in late season cover. So if you don't have as much, here we don't have that much cover, but I've been working on their bedding, and they're going to have cover this year. They didn't have it last year. This year they'll have cover, and we'll see, we have a great bedding area to stand for that spot during the second rut. So you want to be looking at that in the second rut, which is after the post rut. So that's the first point of the second rut. The second point is you'll see a big increase in sign, just like we see up here, our signing phase. You'll see a big increase in scrapes and rubs in this spot and bedding areas and travel spots. And then for the third and final one of the secondary rut, you'll see an increase of morning and evening movements. So you really want to get in on those morning bedding area stands and in those food plot and field stands during the afternoon. So I hope these help you. I hope these really help your rut hunt this season, and hopefully you can tag your big buck this fall.